10 years down the road in 2033, when Mary might be the king of CEMEX, or the queen in this case. Cement in itself is useless. I mean, it has to be used as concrete, no, in combination with stone, sand, and water. No, it's a matter of applying readily available technologies.
Welcome to Tech Times. My name is Ryan Epps, and I have here today is Gonzalo Galindo of CEMEX Ventures. Now, Gonzalo, can you explain to me about what CEMEX does and kind of where the business is right now?
Okay, well, CEMEX is basically a heavy building materials company. We produce basically cement, ready-mix concrete, and aggregates, and we also have some interest in what we call urbanization solutions, which are other type of businesses related to circular economy or other products related to the concrete value chain. No, as such, we have operations in close to 50 countries around the world, and commercial relationships with over 100. It's a company of about 45,000 employees, so based in Mexico, with operations mostly in Mexico, the US, Europe, and also some assets in the Middle East, South and Central America, and Asia.
Awesome. And where would you say your base of operations is?
We have producing cement, ready-mix, and aggregates is not necessarily something that you produce centralized. I mean, you have a distributed network of plants in several places. Like, for example, we have like 10 plants in Mexico, another 10 in the US, in Europe, give or take another 10, things like that. No, ready-mix concrete is even different because plants are very small and they have to be not very far from demand. No, no more than 10, 15 miles. No, so we have 1,000 of those now distributed all over the place. No?
And speaking of cement, how have you guys innovated on this core business of yours?
Well, there's plenty of ways of innovation and how innovation can affect the business in itself. One might think that cement, being a material, has been there for quite some time. People believe that you just mix cement plus stone and water and you have concrete and then you build a wall. No, well, that's the basic principle. But what goes inside has still a lot of technology. No, in the way, for example, we can increase certain fibers or steel fibers and replace some of the steel that you might use in one construction with a fiber steel concrete, or we can add some additives to actually make the performance of the concrete behave differently, have a faster setting or a slower setting depending on the construction challenges that people is facing. We're thinking about and working with partners to actually think about other uses of concrete or cement, like, for example, can we magnetize a slab of concrete and then with that magnetization conduct electricity without cables through a concrete wall, and even induce charging a car, for example, things like that. And that's something that we not necessarily do by ourselves. We do in partnership with other people. No?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. And are there different types of cement that you would use in specific areas, specific climates and stuff, or is that just it has its differences. I mean, in spite of the fact that cement in itself is the same all over the place, because of raw materials that you use, the actual technology or the age of the plant and so on, you end up, especially because raw materials availability, you end up with slightly differences all over the place, no? And then whenever you use cement in itself is useless. I mean, it has to be used as concrete, no, in combination with stone, sand, and water, no? And that is a product that you start modulating and depending on the client needs, no? And yes, of course, climate sometimes has an effect. For example, humidity versus dry versus the cold and so on. I mean, and the technicians and the technical people there because they just try to modulate the different mixes to make sure that they perform properly in the different scenarios. No?
Yeah, awesome. What robotics and machine-assisted applications are expected to dominate context, CVC, and VC investments in the upcoming years?
Well, they will eventually. How fast? I think that we are already seeing some concepts of robotics trying to perform certain activities, usually activities which are more repetitive and which can be controlled to certain aspects of the construction. For example, installing drywall or doing some sort of the iron work and in form work in construction. No?
Yeah.
That replace completely the people, the workers on a job site. Still to be seen. Something that we need to remember is that a job site, when a building is constructed or a bridge is constructed, is not the same as a factory. Factories, you have a flow, people doing specific things, no? So you can robotize simpler, much faster. No, a job site changes every day. So and really using robotics in that place, it's a challenge, because if you have the robot today, tomorrow the robot has to be somewhere else, because where it was today, that something else will happen there today. No, so it's a very changing environment. No?
Yeah. No, I was at CES this past January, and I saw Caterpillar there, and they have a couple of autonomous vehicles there. It was just fascinating how they've been using autonomous vehicles the past 10 years. I mean, John Deere is also getting into autonomous, tractors and such. And it's the environment is blowing up. It's a little bit scary.
Well, somehow could be scary, yes.
Yeah. Can you talk to me a bit about your sustainability, right? Sustainability is a massive part of CEMEX. Can you talk to me a bit about that?
Sure. Well, certainly sustainability is very top on our agenda. It's one of our key strategic objectives has to do with sustainability, and it's related to two things. First, has to do with decarbonizing our operations. Second, it has to do as well with circular economy. The first one is obvious. Producing cement is we emit a substantial amount of CO2.
Yeah.
And following concerns about the whole world and following the different scenarios of decarbonizing the world, we also have specific targets on how we will decarbonize of our operations, and specific targets for 2025, 2030, 2050, trying to reach net zero carbon emissions by then. No? And because of that, there's plenty of the innovation and technology that we attract to the company has to do with achieving that goal. No? Circular economy has to do also with other very important aspect of the business, because cement production in itself is a waste eater. I mean, we actually consume substantially more waste than the one we produce as raw materials, as fuel, as different aspects of the business. So we believe that the future of companies like ours should be very active in waste management and waste usage. No? So some other aspects of sustainability has to do with other aspects, normal assets, for example, being a good a neighbor, taking care of water and things like that. No? So we have a very comprehensive plan that takes care of all those issues. No?
Yeah. And are there any specific regulations that you have to follow per geolocation?
Sure, there are. They're different by country, and I mean, probably Europe is a little bit more consistent in applying the same type of regulations country by country, although with some differences. But you have a much more clarity in terms of for example, the trade and cap systems for CO2 and things like that. No? The US is different, because the US you can have different situations state by state, and sometimes even county by county. No? So you need to but at the end of it, you need to comply with all of them. No, but when you hire and incentives that they will put in place and so on, I can foresee a rapid shift into taking more care of those type of things and having much more stringent regulations. No? Every single country, even countries which are not necessarily that developed, they are already thinking or trying to develop regulation to actually try to improve. I mean, you have Mexico, for example, is already thinking about it, a cap and trade system. They're already thinking about more stringent water regulations, mineral extraction regulations, and things like that. No?
Yeah. Can you talk to me a bit about the recent carbon utilization agreement?
Okay, the one we just signed. That agreement, what it tends to do is take the full amount of the emissions of one specific plant, a cement plant in Alicante, in Spain, and have that been used as one of the raw materials to convert that and other raw materials like hydrogen and so on into e-methanol to supply the shipping industry and hopefully have a much more environmental friendly fuel for them. No? It's really groundbreaking for us because it entails the full usage of one's plant CO2 and trying to connect with other partners, stakeholders into the value chain to actually generate the e-methanol. No?
No, and ET fuels, right? ET fuels. Yeah. Can you explain to me what ET fuels are?
Fuels it's a company which basically they are the promoters and developers of the whole concept. Putting all this together is not only capturing the CO2 for our plants, it's also setting off green electricity capability, setting off a hydrogen capability, setting off the e-methanol capability, all the distribution concepts. So you have to put a lot of different bits and pieces all over the place. And ET Fuels it's actually a British company which is the orchestrator of all this to happen. No? Basically, gotcha. They will buy from all the CO2, they will ensure that it's transported, transformed, and sold to the off-taker of the e-methanol. They will make sure that whoever has to put the electrolyzer puts the electrolyzer, whoever has to supply the clean electricity is them or somebody else, it's been provided, and try to orchestrate that everything happens on time and quality. No?
That's awesome. How important is this agreement to the future of CEMEX as a whole?
It is important because although we are just solving one of many plants that we have to do similar things, it's a good business model to test somewhere else as well in some other plants. Is a solution for one plant which is end solution. I mean, we are going to be using the whole amount of CO2. If according to the numbers we're running today and so on, it might replace a problem, which is the emissions of the plant, into a potential economic benefit as well, and reducing the emissions overall. No? So it's a very relevant because it's an example of what type of things we can do. We have more than 50 cement plants in the world, no? And this is just one that we're testing one specific business model, which I believe can be replicated in some other places. No?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's incredibly interesting and definitely necessary in our day and age. Now, every year you guys launch a top 50 tech startups list. Can you tell me what exactly that is and what goes into that?
Usually, early each year we sit down as a group and try to reflect on what we've seen. No, we review tons and tons of startups every year. We have a healthy deal flow, not only of companies we knock at our door, but also we promote people to knock at our door by our startup competitions that we do every year. Every year we basically evaluate more than 1,000 startups probably. No? So every year we sit down and try to reflect on of all we've seen, regardless if it's a company in which we invested or not. What are the trends and solutions that we are seeing that we believe might mark a difference into the future? No, it's really a forward-looking exercise in trying to give the Contech ecosystem our humble opinion on this is what we believe are the companies to watch in the next 12, 15 months. No. It's a good exercise because it gives a chance to give a an opinion based on our knowledge. It helps us to give a overview of what we believe Contech is, what is happening in Contech and what we believe is going to be happening. And also it's an impulse to those startups which are named in the top 50 in telling the people, I think this is a startup that you should be watching, no? And you investor, you probably might think to talk to them and see whether we are crazy or not, no?
Yeah, for sure. Have you already started this year's list, or is it a bit too early?
No, this year's list we published in last January, end of January.
End of January, yes.
We published that end of January. No, as mentioned, we started the process late November, December, and by January we published late January the list. No.
Awesome. Can you give me an example on the list? There's someone that's popped in your head.
There's quite a few. There are 50 of them.
Exactly. If you're looking for, we actually choose the 50 startups according to our 4 market-driven focus areas.
Cool.
Which we briefly mentioned in the beginning is green construction.
Yeah.
And enhanced productivity, construction supply chain, and future of construction.
Interesting.
Choose give or take like 12 in each of those categories, no?
Yeah.
And from technologies, very varied technologies, some digital, some more hard stuff, no?
Yeah. What my question is, were there any digital twins or even metaverse companies that you...
I don't think metaverse. I think metaverse in construction are still something which is not very widely found, if any. I don't remember if there's a digital twin there. There's a couple of things which actually go into that direction for sure.
Right, exactly. So with respect to our 4 focus areas, digital twins would kind of fall underneath enhanced productivity. And this year we actually did feature one startup named Aaron, whose software produces a high resolution 3D digital twin of assets. So instead of having access once a year while, on site, your different companies' engineers can have virtual access to this digital asset pretty much anytime, anywhere.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, it's fascinating technology, I feel like, but it's kind of going by the wayside. No one's really talking about it anymore. The metaverse is like kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit.
Indeed.
Yeah. Now, can you maybe tell me more a bit about the sustainability you guys do and where you guys see in the future, how you guys are going to expand upon it?
I think that still our main concern is, of course, reaching our targets. Most of our targets between 2025, 2030, I think we have them in the pocket. It's a matter of applying readily available technologies, which will lead us to reduce our carbon footprint substantially. No? The 2050 is a more challenging thing because we will go to much more complicated technologies like carbon capture, carbon usage, carbon storage. Many of those technologies, there are some which are already commercially available, but the economics are not necessarily for some of them right there, or the efficiencies are not necessarily right there. No, so I guess our main concern is in all that front is making sure that we help those technologies evolve to escalate and to become economically viable as well. No. Otherwise, the potential net effect economically for producers like us and the users of our products could be substantial. No? So we have a short window of time to actually help these technologies to be more readily available. No? And just betting in the technology maturity curves that we're seeing lately, because they speed up. No? The new technologies get mature faster, no? And faster and faster. And hopefully this is the case, no? And 10 years down the road in 2033, when Mary might be the king of CEMEX, or the queen in this case, she will see technologies which are solving the problem with high rates of efficiency at economically available conditions. No?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super exciting. Are there any interesting or exciting projects that you guys have coming up that you want to maybe talk about?
There are a few. Some of them which I cannot disclose now because they are negotiating things and so on.
Yeah.
But we are working in different levels. We are working in piloting some early stage technologies. Usually technologies in the sustainability front, in decarbonization issues, they are great technologies which look great at the lab level, but whenever you take it to an industrial site, that's where they break down. Also, we're gonna help a few of those technologies try to bridge that reach. Some others are using more mature technologies already to actually, in an attempt to decarbonize fully a few cement plants. We have close to 4 of those examples right now happening, couple in Europe, couple in the US. But the issue is not necessarily just extracting and capturing the CO2, is doing something with it, no?
Yeah.
Either store it, use it, and that's the hardest part, no?
Yeah.
And that's where we exactly are right now, partnering people, negotiating with people, and figure out how we're going to do it. And those four or five projects of total decarbonization, those plans are very relevant for us because they will mark a pattern of the type of things we can do for the rest of our industrial base, no?
Awesome. Yeah. That's about it. Is there anything you guys wanted to add before we cut it off?
No, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, this effort and what we do here in CEMEX Ventures is really a thing about partnering, trying, being agile, and having a very open concept, no? I mean, this is one of the few areas in which talking to people, with many people at the same time in an orderly fashion, will take you to the next level, no? And we're always in CEMEX Ventures happy to open discussions, share information, share experiences and points of view with as many people as possible, no?
I love that. Thank you so much, Gonzalo.
No problem.
Yeah.